Many of us, when we travel to like the Eastern Shore, Virginia Beach, around the Chesapeake Bay, we'll drive through communities, we'll see these beautiful, huge, pink or blue hydrangea plants. And we go, wow, we want to grow them where we live. Well, in warmer parts of Virginia, they're going to do quite well for you. But what I have found in the colder areas, especially given the temperatures we've had over the last couple of years, the colder temperatures, these hydrangeas freeze during the winter months. It could be a fall early freeze or a spring early freeze or just dead cold during the winter. And what happens is, since these hydrangeas bloom in the spring or early summer, the buds are already produced. They produce buds last July, last August on the tips of every stem. So here is a bud right here. And the bud, when I pick it off, it's already brittle and dry and it's dead. In fact, all the buds on this hydrangea, which is pink, are dead. In fact, if you look at this plant, I don't see any flowers left over from last year, so this plant didn't bloom at all. The other thing I noticed is when we experience colder winters, we cut a branch here, this branch or stem is completely dead. So if it's really been damaged, sometimes I recommend you cut the whole plant back to the ground. But what I'm going to do with this plant is what I call thinning. This is a process you can do in late winter, early spring. It means for every one stem that is here, you have to maintain 5. So if you had 5 stems, you're going to remove one of them. So I'm going to remove this old one here. I'm going to remove this old one here, which I think is dead. And I'm going to take it as low to the ground as I can. And I'm going to maintain some of these other younger stems that will hopefully bloom next year. To help solve the problem of the pink or blue hydrangeas not blooming for people, there's been a lot of breeding and hybridization of trying to create varieties that produce new buds, or they have buds lower down on a stem that will give you flowers. For example, this is a variety called Endless Summer. It's not completely filled with flowers from last year. There's about 7 flowers, or about a quarter of this plant came into bloom. But they are working on new varieties. And Everlasting Series is another type of hydrangeas that will bloom better for us in our colder climate areas. One of the things that you can do with this is the same type of pruning needs to take place. It is a thinning pruning, so 1 out of every 5 stems should be removed. So I'm going to come in and remove this stem of last year's flower. The other thing keep in mind is during the late winter, you can also tip these. I like to leave the old flowers on the stems because it protects sometimes the buds that are underneath. Let's hope over the next 10 years, we're going to see some great new varieties that will sort of be foolproof for blooming in our garden. I'm Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.